Join us as we head to the Airborne Museum in St Mere Eglise to learn about the brave men and women who fought during the D-Day landings, and also take a special tour to see the memorial for Richard Winters from Easy Company, who inspired Band of Brothers. In the early hours of June 6, 1944, paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division were dropped over the Cotentin Peninsula to secure key routes leading inland from Utah Beach. During the operation, Private John Steele of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment landed in the centre of St Mere Eglise and became caught on the church steeple where his parachute was snagged. Steele remained suspended for several hours whilst fighting continued below, but was eventually taken prisoner by German troops before managing to escape and rejoin his unit. The incident, depicted in the film The Longest Day. Today, the effigy of the parachute trooper and his parachute remain attached to the steeple as a memorial to the event. The Airborne Museum of St Mere Eglise is a Normandy museum dedicated to the US paratroopers of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions during World War II. Join us as we take you inside. At the end of 1944, Hitler decided to build up coastline defences from Norway to the Pyrenees. The Tete organisation was tasked with building the Atlantic Wall. Port cities were turned into actual fortresses, complete with newly constructed submarine bases, radar stations and bunkers. Responsible for France's fortifications in the west, Field Marshal Rommel realised that Fortress Europe was merely a myth. Thousands of miles of barbed wire, landmines, machine gun nests, anti-tank ditches and walls were created. Defensive outposts were installed on the east coast of the Cotentin Peninsula, and powerful artillery batteries protected Bay d'Avay and Val d'Isere. By the spring of 1944, some 300,000 workers were busy building the Atlantic Wall. In the summer of 1940, private homes were requisitioned to house the occupying forces, and inhabitants were known to be crammed into basements and attics. The German army moved into barracks, while schools and other buildings were turned into living quarters. Officers took over castles, manor houses and mansions to use as command posts. A long list of bans and rules were imposed. German time became the official time. A curfew was enforced from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Street lights were banned and people needed special permission to drive cars, ride bicycles and headlights were covered. People were prohibited from walking on roadways. On pavements, residents had to step aside and take off their hats as German officers passed by. No gatherings were allowed, and displaying a French flag in public was prohibited. Firearms, ammunition and combat gear had to be handed over to the local authorities. Only French radio stations under German control were permitted. After February 1944, wireless radios had to be surrendered to the town hall. On June 1940, General de Gaulle appealed to the French people to keep fighting Nazi Germany and asked them to join him in London. This external resistance force gave rise to France Libre, Free France. Early acts by France's internal resistance included ripping down propaganda posters and sabotaging telephone lines and road signs. This resistance formed countless underground networks overseen by special French and British services, and ordinary citizens started a number of their own movements. In 1941, General de Gaulle tasked Jean Moulin with consolidating these movements and creating a unified secret army. By late January 1943, Jean Moulin had formed the Mouvement Uni de Résistance, United Resistant Movements, followed by the Conseil National de la Résistance, the National Resistance Council. In the north, Pierre Brossolette formed a Comité de Coordination des Mouvements, Movement Coordination Committee. On May 27, 1943, a few weeks before his arrest, Jean Moulin merged the key resistant movement and trade unions. In February 1944, the main military factions of the internal resistance banded together. So members of the St Mere Eglise chapter drew up maps of German defences, batteries, blockhouses and arsenals, ready for the resistance and allies, ready for the D-Day landings. And they also helped the Americans during the Normandy landings in June 1944. This is the name of some of the families that helped. A 1940s outfit of a French resistance fighter. Homemade airband look. It's a bit hard to see because of the glass. I move forward, there you go. Look at that. This is all about the US parachutists. So this is the Riddle helmet. And it was set up to protect the head whilst jumping. The M41 jumpsuit. So these ones here were parachutists that dropped in Sicily as part of Operation Husky in July 1943. And this was parachutists from Italy from Operation Avalanche. So on September 9th, 1943, they landed in the Bay of Salerno. We've actually been there, and a member of my family is actually buried in the British cemetery in Salerno because he died over in Italy during the campaign.
Will be to protect the southern flank towards Carentan. Take a Barquette Lock, blow up the bridges over the Doubs River, and capture the wooden bridges in the port near Brécourt. Now, let's move on to the 82nd Airborne. Their deployment will be made in 3 stages. Mission Boston is entrusted to Force A, whose 6,420 All-Americans will be dropped in 3 coded drop zones, O, N, and T. With the wealth of experience you've acquired during the last operations in Sicily and Italy, you will not officially be given crickets. However, If, like your comrades in the 101st, you shall use passwords to identify yourselves. Drops on O. St Mere Eglise. From 0151, the 505th PIR, and the units from the headquarters 82nd, the 456th PFAB, and the 307th AEB must seize and hold St Mere Eglise. Take and protect the bridges over the Mere River in La Fièvre, the Chef du Pont, and they must hold a defensive line from Neuville-au-Plan to Beaumerville. And finally make contact with the 101st Airborne. Drop zone N. Piconville. From 0208, the 501st PIR, and men from the 307th AEB must destroy the bridges between the Douve River and Beauzonville-Bastille and Etionneville. Secure a bridgehead as far as the village of Renouf. Set up a reserve force and get ready to move west as far as the Douve River when ordered by the division. Drop zone T. Amfreville. From 0232, the 507th PIR must seize, organize, and protect the division drop zone. Assist the 505th PIR in taking the bridges over the Mere River. Make contact with the 508 in the village of Renouf and get ready to move west as far as the Douve River when ordered by the division. Well, I hope the objectives are clear. You'll have to know them by heart. Now, a quick reminder to all units. Enemy lines of communication must be cut at all costs, and you must submit daily reports to your respective headquarters. A brief update on your M42 jump uniforms. They will be impregnated with an anti-vesicant compound. Your trousers have been reinforced with canvas at the knees and the thigh pockets. Your jacket has padded elbow and hip pockets so you can carry more material. One last word, gentlemen. You are about to take place in the largest air operation ever. D-Day is set for June 6th. The eyes of the world are upon us. Good luck. God bless you.
Soldiers, sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you're about to embark upon the greatest crusade towards which we have striven for many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck. And let us beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking. After 3 years of careful planning, Operation Overlord was about to be launched.
Qui a décidé d'un débarquement à l'ouest? Et comment le choix de la Normandie s'est imposé? Après l'attaque surprise...
So, following the surprise attack by Japanese forces on the US Pacific Fleet, the United States declared war on Japan and entered World War II. In Washington, during the Arcadia Conference, Roosevelt, in the presence of Churchill, unexpectedly focused on Germany as the main enemy. That was the Germany First strategy. The first conference led to the creation of the ETO, the European Theatre Operations, and most importantly the CCS, Combined Chiefs of Staff, gathering Allied Chiefs of Staff and coordinating all military operations. but wide differences of opinion emerged. The Soviets wanted to open a second front in the west, while the British were in favour of attacking North Africa and subsequently Italy, before carrying out a major landing in the west. In 1942, the US War Department studied the blueprint of a large-scale Allied landing on the northwest coast of France. Marshall's Chief of Staff in the United States Opera had two operations in mind. Operation Sledgehammer, US troops were to occupy the Cotentin Peninsula. Operation Roundup, British forces would invade the French coast between Boulogne and Sens. But these plans were not very successful. So the raid on the port of Dieppe on the 1942 was a failure, but it provided valuable information about landings. In a climate of growing tension among the Allies, Churchill pressed for a landing in North Africa. In January 1943, ANFRA Conference in Casablanca brought together for the first time Roosevelt, Churchill, Charles de Gaulle and Henri Giraud. Stalin could not attend as his armies were busy fighting around Stalingrad. They decided on an invasion of Sicily and mainland Italy. Continued support to the USSR, mostly that inter-allied conference, led to the creation of a structure in charge of planning a landing on the Western Front. Cossack, Chief of Staff to Supreme Allied Commander, leadership was entrusted to Lieutenant General Frederick E. Morgan of the Army. He launched Deception Operation Cockade, designed to alleviate German pressure on Allied operations and on the Soviets on the Eastern Front. On April 17, 1943, Cossack ascertained the guiding principles of landing in the West, seizing of a large port, Air Force range. Normandy proved to have many advantages: large tidal ranges, the type of sand, beaches, and most of all, the poor defence of the Atlantic Wall in that area. In May 1943, the Trident Conference between Roosevelt and Churchill ascertained that a landing in the West was to take place in May 1944. In August 1943, Lieutenant Morgan submitted during the Quadrant Conference the outline plan for Operation Overlord in Normandy. As a result, the combined Chiefs of Staff asked Morgan to organise a second landing in southern France, Operation Anvil, to study specific methods of landing, develop an artificial port, and provide for a 25% increase in strength in the assault forces. Overlord became the top priority for the Allies. Late November 1943, Roosevelt, Churchill and Stalin met for the first time at the Tehran Conference and confirmed Normandy as the chosen place, and May 1st, 1944 as the confirmed date. Cossack did not have any decision-making power, however, and did not generate consensus with the Allies. Renowned for his skills as an organiser and diplomat, General Dwight E. Eisenhower was then appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force. In December 1943, and Cossack staff was designated SHAEF, SHAEF, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. On January 14, 1944, Eisenhower moved to London and began converting Cossack staff. Early Feb 1944, SHAEF prepared Operation Neptune, assault phase of the Normandy landings. At the insistence of Montgomery, Eisenhower encouraged the widening of the budget, and the amphibious assault, the largest in history, involved simultaneous landing on 5 beaches, codenamed Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno and Sword. The Americans were assigned to land at Utah and Omaha. The assault at Utah Beach was to take place in the Canton to ensure capture of the port of Cherbourg. Second 2 airborne divisions, the 82nd and 101st. Sword Beach was assigned to Britain, France and elements from the Polish, Norwegian and other Allied navies, as well as being assisted by the British 6th Airborne Division. At the heart of the scheme, the British landed on Gold Beach and the Canadians on Juno Beach. To ensure a successful outcome, a significant amount of equipment had to be brought on D-Day. Over 1,400 tanks, 3,000 cannons, 17,000 vehicles and over 150,000 men were required for the first day. Significant logistics support was required to strengthen the bridgeheads. Over 6,000 ships and 10,000 aircraft were also required to cover such a large-scale operation. Eisenhower decided to postpone Operation Overlord till June the 1st so that more things would be available. For the same reason he postponed Operation Dragoon, initially Operation Anvil, the landing in Provençal, to 15th of August. Operation Neptune had to meet a set of conditions involving the phase of the moon and the tides. Unfortunately, since June 1st, the weather had deteriorated considerably. Eisenhower had to hold 2 meetings a day. On Sunday 4th of June, Group Captain Stagg, Chief Weather Forecaster, predicted good prospects for a favourable break on June the 6th, which he confirmed on Monday the 5th in the morning. Consequently, Eisenhower decided to land on Tuesday, June the 6th. Thus began Operation Neptune. Soldiers, sailors and armies of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the greatest crusade ever to which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. So these were the Harley-Davidson WLA Liberators, specially built by Harley-Davidson. Wow. They made over 88,000 motorcycles during World War II. So this is a Dodge WC-51. So during the Second World War, the Dodge company was involved in the war effort by producing vans and trucks for military use. The new range was named WC Weapon Carrier. Various versions were constructed using the same chassis and engine combination with or without a winch at the front. They made 123,541 of these vehicles. I apologise for the lines on the screen. St Mere Eglise, this was the paraglider that crashed. If you look behind the screen, if I take you closer, you can actually see some of the fuselage still of the glider that they've got. Incredible. I do have to say, you can't imagine being in something like that. I can't comprehend that. So drop of the 17th Airborne. Just impressive, so impressive. And that's the flag behind, look. What a man. Wow. At nightfall, on the night of June the 5th to 6th, 1944, more than 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions load into the 821 C-47 airplanes. The Pathfinder teams take off first to prepare the drop zones. The squadrons leave England and head southwest towards Brittany until they arrive at Checkpoint Hoppercon, just northwest of Guernsey Island. There they change course to head southeast towards the Cotentin Peninsula. They fly at low altitude, about 490 feet above sea level, to avoid being caught in the German radars. A thick fog covers the French coastline, but this forces the planes to either fly above it to avoid enemy fire or below it to see the drop zones. It takes 11 minutes to cross under German anti-aircraft fire. When they're over their objective, paratroopers must jump at the risk of their own lives. So this simulates what it was like to be in the back of the plane. So it's loud.
Yeah.
You know?
And then they've been flying for about half an hour and then all hell would have broken loose.
Yeah. Feel the vibrations too. Can't you? You can feel you can feel the vibrations. This would have been your view. It's very clever how this is done, because it looks like the view you'd have had if you were jumping out. Wow.
Hi guys, we've just pulled up at the Major Dick Winters or Richard Winters Memorial. If you're familiar with Band of Brothers, he was the main character, the leader, and he is obviously a real person. So I'm just going to switch around and show his memorial. He died in 2011. He was a great man.
Thank you for joining us. One last thing to say.
Keep on wondering, and
Bye, guys.
see you next one.
Bye.
Bye.